Tony, what do you have for us next?
Hi guys, and sorry for I hope the quality is fine. I love your work, okay, um, and I'm really intrigued by Mauro Biglino. I hope I didn't butcher his name. Regarding the Elohim translations, I remember I've heard Dr. Michael Heiser, who has unfortunately passed away, on his take of Psalm 82, and in his take, he said that it's translated that Elohim as singular stands in the midst of plural Elohim. So it looks like Psalm 82 is referring to as the word Elohim as a singular and also as a plural. And this is his take on the fact that Elohim can also mean God, like singular God, but also can mean as you call the powerful ones. What's the real translation of Psalm 82? That would be nice to hear. Okay, God bless
you. Wonderful. Well, can I start on this one, Mauro, and then you can tell me if I've got this right?
Okay.
So Elohim is a very interesting word. And though it is, I think, one of the Bible's earliest words that gets traditionally translated as God, it does not mean what we understand by the word God. It is a masculine plural form word that, if we break it down, means the powers or the powerful ones. And when I wrote Escaping from Eden, I wondered why this word Elohim would take plural verb forms and exhibit plural behaviors, like having conversations or having conflicts or having wars. And I asked the question, what if it really is a simple plural? How do the stories change if we read it in the plural? And that was the beginning of my journey. But I recognize what Tudor Hymn says, that the grammar surrounding Elohim is unusual. There are moments when Elohim appears to be used in the singular with a singular verb form. And so to help me get my head around that, I spoke to Dom Henry Wansborough, who is the senior editor for the New Jerusalem Bible. And I had a conversation with him, and he suggested to me that the word Elohim could be a word in transition, that essentially it is a plural word, that it does mean the powerful ones. And so it's quite coherent when we see it with plural behaviors, plural verb forms, but it can also be used as a collective, so that it can refer to the powerful ones as a group. And so in the way we in English might talk about the nobility or royalty, and it's a singular word, but it refers to a group of people. And when you use a singular word, a collective noun like royalty or nobility, you will often find you get a bit confused when it comes to adding the verb to the sentence. So it would be correct to say royalty is always getting itself into trouble, except we know royalty refers to a number of people. And so usually we would say royalty are always getting themselves into trouble. And so for reasons like that, we can see Elohim used in the singular as a group, used in the plural for a group of people. And I do think there are moments also where it's become familiar to the speakers to use it as a singular noun. And so you might say the Elohim of a place, and you're only referring to one Elohim. So that's why I say I think it's a word in transition, that originally it was a simple plural. Then we see times when it might be a group, a collective noun, and moments where it might be used in the singular. It gets even further confused when the redactor sometimes pastes the name Yahweh where the word Elohim used to be, and other places where he puts Yahweh and Elohim next to each other. So those are my thoughts. What do you think, Mauro?
I agree with you, because the term Elohim can be used for to indicate a group of powerful ones, and only one singular individual. And that's why Elohim is used with verbs in a singular and in a plural form. The friend who posed the questions quoted Michael Heiser, and I remember that Michael Heiser talking about the assembly that the Psalm 82 is talking about. This assembly was in the sky and not on the earth. And so I think that is important to know that we have the need to have grammar rules to follow. But the ancient authors of the Bible didn't have the same need, and so they used the verb in a plural or in a singular form according to the fact that who was acting was one singular Elohim as Yahweh, for example, or the Elohim as the group.
Wonderful. Now, a question that a lot of people have asked me who have watched our series, Mauro, they say they've loved the series and they now realize they want a different Bible translation than the one they have sitting on their bookcase. And they often ask me, is there a translation of the Bible, the Old Testament or the New Testament, that you recommend for getting close to the root meanings of the key words? How would you answer that?
But I think it's necessary to read a Bible with interlinear translation and literal translation, because reading what the Bible says literally, we understand when the Bible talks about the Elohim as a group, and when the Bible talks about Elohim as a singular individual. And there were many verses, many chapters in which it's possible to understand clearly this difference. I think it's necessary, or it's enough, to read the Bible with an open mind, without the glasses of the theologian thought, which has the necessity to affirm and reaffirm monotheism. And so the theologian thought had the necessity to demonstrate that Elohim is always singular. but that is not true.
Yes. Yes. Oh, I absolutely agree with what you said, Mauro. I I agree. I think really to get to the bottom of things, you have to get an interlinear Bible, with the Hebrew for the Hebrew texts, an interlinear with the Greek for the New Testament texts. I like to use an interlinear with the Greek of the Septuagint as well. And if I point people to a Bible translation, I often say that personally, I like the New Jerusalem Bible, the expanded study edition, because I find the editorial notes are more honest than a lot of Bibles, and they will point out where there are questions about what a word might mean. So there are huge questions as to what El Shaddai means, and the
Okay.
editorial footnotes will admit to that in the New Jerusalem, or when we see Elohim being used in the plural, and it seems to be a repeat of Sumerian stories, the editors in the New Jerusalem will admit that. So I applaud that. I'm impressed with that. But I answer the same way that you do, Mano. I say, read an interlinear. They can be expensive, but you can find interlinears online. But the key then is to have really good lexicons that you're reading with. So for the Hebrew texts, get hold of Brown Drivers Briggs and really read that, what it says about the keywords. Or for the Greek, go to the Bauer, Arndt, Gingrich, and Danker lexicon, and that will get you into the roots of those words too. And it's expensive to get those books, but it's so rewarding, because once you start reading those texts in that way and getting to root meanings, it's a great way of peeling back centuries of doctrine and dogma and theology and assumption and getting back to the roots of what the writers were originally saying.
Oh yes, I in my little career I translated for the most important publishing Catholic publishing house in Italy, which works under the Vatican. I translated 17 books in interlinear way, and our audience can say what it means. There is a Hebrew text, and under we have the literal translation of each word. And these books are in the university, in the Faculty of Theology, and these books translate literally what the Bible says. And it's important because often in the Bible for the family, many verbs that in Hebrew are in the plural form are translated in a singular form. And this is a mistake, is a mistranslation, is an inconsistency. It's false. It's false, I would
Yes,
say.
absolutely.
Because these books made for the scholars have the right translation, because the scholars know the Hebrew, and so they know what is plural and what is singular. The families don't know Hebrew, and so the family have to read singular also when in Hebrew we have plural. And I think this is a mistranslation. There is, I think, there is a sort of willingness to make the Bible understandable.
Yes.
Oh, I beg your pardon, but I have Tourette's syndrome, so I have the need, while I'm speaking, to control the movement. Sorry, but the syndromes, but the Tourette's syndromes, it's very strong, and I can say anything. I can only to try to control.
No worries. I love pointing people to your work, Mauro, because your credentials for biblical translation are superb. They can't be challenged. They can't be questioned. And I find that it is easy for me to find people in the academic world to acknowledge what you and I are saying, even if they don't want to agree publicly with all our conclusions. They know the validity of what we're saying. But what frustrates me is that though there is that respect at that level, when you go into communities of faith, into churches, what is known by the academics is not known by the millions of people who go to churches and maybe synagogues all around the world. And they will be maintaining the traditional interpretations and traditional translations as if they are defending God by defending those translations, not knowing that the people who train their rabbis and pastors might see things a very different way. And it's one of the things that motivates me in my writing, because I think people should know these things. So, for instance, the basic fact that so many of the Elohim stories in the Bible are the summary form of the Mesopotamian stories from ancient Sumeria, Babylonia, Arcadia, and Assyria. You can find it in the editorial notes in the New Jerusalem Bible. You can find it discussed by academics. But even after 150 years of that knowledge being in academia, still most people in the churches don't know anything about it. And I think that's a great shame.
Oh, yes. And what is important is, in my opinion, to say that many people believe to a book, believe to that translation of a book, and they don't know that the translations are not right.
No, that's right. They feel they have to defend the translation that they have.
Thanks for watching this short video clip from our main YouTube channel, The Fifth Kind. Click here to watch the full video. Check out our official website at fifthkind.tv.